If your n8n canvas looks like a spider web, you are using way too many nodes. Most pros only use about 15 core nodes to do 90% of their work. And today we are starting with the ears of your automation, which is the triggers. So I'm going to show you the only 4 triggers you actually need to wake up any workflow, including the universal trigger that lets you link n8n to literally any app on the internet. So let's have a look at the triggers first. So triggers are what wake up your workflow. Without a trigger, your workflow just sits there doing nothing. But triggers listen for something, like a click of a button, a time, a webhook, or a form submission, and then tell n8n, run this automation now. So every flow needs some sort of a trigger. So the manual trigger is your testing button. So use it when you are building, but I wouldn't recommend to use it for production. So let's just quickly drop one on the canvas. Let's type in manual trigger. Here it is. And when you first click on it, there is no data. But the cool thing is you can set up mock data. Or you can just go to the top right corner and click on this pencil. So here we have the default data. So we can see that we have the name, code, first item, second item. So not much of information, of course. But what we can do, we can generate JSON using LLMs, like ChatGPT, for example. So I've just generated something quick for us to have a look at. So we can replace this JSON code with our new piece of code, and then we press on Save button in the top right corner. And here we are, we have our data as the output. This data has been pinned, meaning that we can reuse the same data multiple times further down the line in our workflow, which is super cool. Also pay attention that our output now has multiple fields like name, email, age. So some of them are text fields or strings, some of them are numerical, boolean, true or false, and so on and so forth. So we're going to have a look at the data types shortly. You have multiple view options. If you go to the top right corner, you have the JSON view, which I currently have, but you can also view the data in the table. The schedule trigger is for recurring tasks. So think of it as your Monday morning reports. So I actually have a very quick example to show you. So what we have here is a very basic daily AI and n8n news fetcher flow, which essentially checks Google for new articles every morning at 7 o'clock. And then if there are new articles found, it's gonna save them in my database. So this particular trigger is set to run at 7 a.m. every morning. But obviously, depending on your use case, you can change the interval to whatever is more appropriate for you. So certain triggers can be run every few seconds, but if it's just a weekly report, it can be run once in a week. If it's a monthly report, of course, you change it to months. And that's the schedule trigger. The webhook is the most important one. It lets other apps like your website or Typeform push data into n8n instantly. For example, I have this Join the Automation Orbit School waitlist page/form, which is currently connected to a webhook. By the way, this is still the case, you can still join my waitlist. The first 50 people are gonna get access for free. There are still a few spaces left, so feel free to join. So I just want to demonstrate how the webhook works here. So we just put your name, let's say, it's gonna be me, my email address. Once I press Get Early Access, post HTTP request will be sent to our webhook, and all this data will be traveling to our n8n. So let's just press on it and see how it works. Go back to n8n. In here, we have our webhook, which is configured the following way. We have the HTTP method post. I set the path to something more meaningful because usually it's just a random combination of digits. So what happens, the form actually sends the HTTP request to this webhook. If we're gonna go to the executions, we're gonna see some outputs. So we have our webhook, which was triggered by the post request, and here we have our data, name and email address. So when you don't have a front end, a web page, an app, for example, but we still would like to get some data inside n8n, what we can do, we can simulate this data into the webhook using Postman. If you haven't used Postman before, what it does essentially, it allows you to send post or get requests. Let's make sure our webhook is configured correctly. So we have our test URL, the HTTP method set to post, which is correct. So we change the path to lead intake demo. So I put respond immediately. We can just press listen for test event and then go to Postman. So I actually have the body and headers ready. I'm going to be posting it to this URL over here. So all I do, I just press send, check the status. We can see it's 200, so which is cool, meaning that everything went fine. We go back to our webhook and we can see that the data is here. And from here, we can start building our workflow. So we have our name, email, company, consent, all this data, what we wanted. That's in a nutshell how the webhook works. And finally, the on-form submission trigger. So if you don't have a website or you are not familiar with Postman, n8n can actually host a simple form for you to collect the data. And this is super useful. Let's have a look. So let's open on-form submission trigger. So I'm gonna go to triggers and then click on on-form submission over here. And this is how it looks blank. So we have the test URL, the production URL. We can give a title to our form, and then we can add different elements to it. So the field names, the data types. Actually, in order to save us a bit of time, I've decided to set it up separately. And here it is, our on-form submission. Let's click on it. So in here we have a number of fields like the title of a form, the description, and also a number of fields within the form which we'll need to fill in. So let's just execute this step. The new pop-up window appears. Our form is ready. Let's just fill it in. We have different data types here, text fields or the strings, arrays, which we're gonna cover in a bit. And also we have an object, so we can attach a file here. So let's do that. And then just click submit. So the form has been successfully submitted and it should appear on the right-hand side. Yeah, so we have all the data on the right-hand side in our output as expected. We can go back, press P to pin it, and you can see the small pin appeared in the bottom right corner, meaning that this data can be reused by us further down the line. A trigger is useless if the data it catches is a mess. So now that your workflow is awake, you need to clean that data. Just click over here for part 2, where we cover the 6 data transformation nodes that handle 80% of heavy lifting in n8n.